Hello and welcome to another episode of the Tell Nut Show. As always, we are your hosts. We have the fabulous Kirsha Fox. She is the author of the Deception and Justice series, homeschooling mom of four, avid reader and gamer.
And my co-host is Julia J.K. Allen, editor, author, and author coach. She's a fantasy and horror author who loves to put magic in everything. And we are so excited to introduce you to our guest, Lauren Ritchie. She is an indie author who has been professionally published since October of 22, but has written stories unpublished since she was in her late 20s. She currently writes in the genre of thriller mysteries with a specific emphasis on the psychological cat and mouse mind-bending stories that challenge a reader. Welcome, Lauren.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, I love any story with a psychological aspect. It's like my favorite kind of horror, like the scariest to me anyways, is like the psychological horror and like psychological thrillers. Oof, sends a chill up your spine, right? I love those kinds of stories.
Mm-hmm. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing journey? What got you started and how's it looking now?
Well, that's a loaded question. My professional journey began in 21 when I was writing the story. And so when I got that first book done, I realized that there was something unique about it. I had a villain. And in the first book, you'll meet him right off. His name is Dean Newberry. And, well, he's really just not your average man. He's somebody who has quite a past. And working on this book was a journey in itself. It went through quite a bit, a lot of restructuring. I've always loved writing, but with this story, I loved writing it in itself because of what it's done to me and writing it over the 3 years or so that I've been doing it. But my journey started back in 2021.
And what drew you to write this genre in particular?
Well, like I said, it's the villain. Everybody likes a good villain, at least one good villain, and they always like the twists and the turns of, especially the stalker or the bad guy who has a sordid past that nobody figures out till about a quarter of the way through. He's not exactly who he says he is. And because he was already into place, I got a chance to play on him and develop who he was or who he would be to an audience who was going to be introduced to him early on. So I think that's really what started it, and that's like the basis of it.
All right. Sounds like that genre just speaks to your soul then.
Yes, it does.
No, and that's so fun to play with. We were talking about before the show of how not easy that is to write the twists, to planting the seeds of, who actually this person is, what they've been up to this whole time that, we don't see right away and stuff. Do you have any tips or tricks for the twist or those seedier elements of adding those to the characters?
That's a good question. To me, I think it's about adding as many turns as you can, but spacing it where people have a little bit of a rest or what they think as a resting period before you move them. It's like a roller coaster ride. It starts up slow, and all of a sudden you're up and down, around, and every turn. And so that's how I think of it is when it comes to scenes, think of it like a really fast roller coaster ride you want to send somebody on.
That's really good. That's really insightful to picture the story as a roller coaster so that you can kind of plot your big reveals and kind of work through them. But then again, it hits you again when you're not expecting it. Yeah, I love that visual.
Yeah, it's also you could compare it to you're in traffic and all of a sudden there's a traffic jam and you're going and slowing and you're stopping and going, stop, go, stop. It's also something like that too, where you don't think you're ever going to get going and then you just keep stopping.
Right. I really like the roller coaster metaphor too, because it's just like it's really great because it's so multi-directional, right? When you're writing something twisty and turny, you don't want to just do the same kinds of twists and turns. You want to go up, and then you want to go around the bend, and then you want to go the other way, and then you want to go fast and slow. Or even like when they do the drop rides, how they do it fast and slow, and they change it up so that you don't get used to it, is a really great metaphor. Yeah, for how to write thrillers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I also will say, well, there might be a loop or two in there too, because roller coasters can have loops as well. So be prepared for those loops that go round and round.
Right. Yeah, where you feel like you're going back through the same kind of cycle. No, I love I love it though. Yes, that's great. What does your writing process look like? Like, how do we go from idea to then finished manuscript?
Well, actually, it's not organized at all. Once a story is in my head, I literally just start writing it. I might write notes on what I feel can go into it. But basically, once the story comes into play, the characters come into play, that storyline and them, they take over. And so for me, I'm just writing it as it comes to me. Like I said, I'll have a few notes. Like I have a couple of notes on something I'm currently working on. And when I get to those parts, I have something that I can continue with if I get stuck, because that might be a place where I can put it.
Okay. So you're mostly kind of a pantser, but you do like plotting and some notes to kind of guide yourself.
I'm basically a pantser too.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like even pantsers, they know big plot points, like the big 3 or 4 things they want to happen in the story. They just don't really write them down, but they still have ideas of like, oh, this is going to be the big twist and this is going to be the big ending, right? And then they kind of just discover everything else.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Excuse me. Yes.
So for you, what's the most important part of writing?
As these are really good questions. For me, the best part about writing is meeting the characters and finding out who they are and how they fit into the story. There's several in this series that I love working with.
I really love books that like the characters feel so real that it's hard for your mind to wrap itself around the idea that these are not real people.
That right?
When you have a good book, these people are your friends. You know them, like you know everything about them, and then you close the book, and it's like, no, come back. Like,
right.
Oh,
we're on
no.
first name terms, yeah.
I mean, in a psychological horror or thriller, maybe you don't want them to be real, but but there is sort of a little bit of mourning that can happen when you've just read a really good book and there's no more to read.
Yeah. It's a lot heartbreaking. Yeah, when you're like, oh, you read that final page, and you're just like, because like reading, I love rereading books, but it's like you'll never have that first time reading with those characters and falling in love and getting to know them. Yeah.
No.
So special.
So you're very character driven, but do your books typically start out with characters or more like plot?
There's always something around the story when it starts, like a little bit of background or something the character is doing, but it doesn't automatically just start with the character. At least when the first book starts for me, it doesn't start that way. It pretty much starts out on a storming night, and the main character, Mariana, who you'll meet, she lives in a farmhouse, and she's looking out the window of her door, and she's heard sirens, and she can see them, police cars rushing by in a heavy storm in another direction, to whatever has their attention. It could be an accident, a distress call. Somebody could have, died or something. You just never know, but you see them out in a hurry, and it doesn't really resonate with her until the story starts picking up just how pivotal police officers will be in her life.
Yeah. Gotta I feel like that's a nod to the classics to start out with A Dark and Stormy Night as these things always do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I really like because like that also feels like a rule where they're like you can't open a book talking about the weather. So like intentionally breaking those rules with an
Like,
homage.
watch
I really
me.
love that idea too.
Watch
Yeah.
me. I'm gonna do what I want.
Right, watch me break this rule, guys. I'm all about breaking rules. Yes.
Mhm. Do you have any favorite authors, and what's something maybe they do well?
Actually, I don't have a favorite author.
Uh-huh.
And that's because growing up, I didn't do a lot of reading, but then I did do some reading. So I think because, in my own life, I had to do a lot of moving. I don't know what settling down means. So for a lot of people who read books, that has a pivotal um, moment for them where they feel settled. And for me, reading was just a way to have something to do because I had access to books.
Mhm.
Whether it was my grandmother's collection of Danielle Steele or Barbara Taylor Bradford, or I was reading something else. It was just a place where I could read something because I needed something to do, and because this was long before I had a computer or there was such thing as internet.
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like for me, reading let me find, maybe not a place of isolation, but it allowed me to find normalcy because, as it said, I've done a lot of moving since I was a kid. One, my father was in the military, and then before I was 13, my parents divorced. So
Mhm.
even in my adult life, I did a lot of moving, and I don't know what stability is. So for me, writing is a way of being stable. Reading is a way of being stable
Yes.
for me.
Yes, because they go with you wherever you are.
Mhm.
Yep, they sure
I
do.
love that. Yeah, yeah. My dad was also in the military, but I kind of had an easy experience because I was very young when we moved around a lot, and then actually he was the last position he had he was at for like 4 or 5 years, and so we obviously moved, and I had to move when he retired to our hometown, which was the new kid experience, which is no fun for anyone. But I didn't have it as rough as I know a lot of military kids where it was every year, every 2 years. Yeah, for a long time.
My family also moved around a lot. When we weren't in the military,
Yes.
they just did that a lot. So,
Hmm.
yes, when it's hard to make new friends constantly, books are always there for you. Like you just open the pages and step away into a totally different place. And
Yes, yes, yes. That's the value of books. And like I said, they go with you everywhere. So it's like you do feel like you have that home base with you no matter where you are in the world.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
my
we do.
mom one time yelled like she's like, "Books are not friends." I'm like, "These books are my friends." Like,
Right? Don't you dare take them from me. Right. Oh, yeah. Okay. What's one thing you've learned from the writing process?
To write the book. I say that
yes.
because early on when I wrote the original manuscript, and I'm talking about the original story itself, I didn't know what structure was. I didn't know how to label my chapters. And when it was time to hire an editor, that's where, besides, TikTok, that's where I learned some of the things I know today about writing, is because, there was somebody in the editing process to help me learn how to restructure the flow of my story and make it make sense. Not that I didn't have good ideas, it just didn't flow the way it should. And that's because I didn't know a whole lot. And so I believe, to me, that's where a lot of my learning came from.
Yes, there
Yes,
is a big
yes.
leap from just writing to actually
Hmm.
crafting a book, a narrative
Yes.
that works. Yes.
Yes, that's I definitely like so I was lucky enough to be able to study some creative writing at my college, and I don't think it's necessary at all, but I really love that it provides you with the structure of workshops and feedback and like the craft elements that you get to pick up and then implement with feedback from other people, because everyone knows like 10,000 hours is what you need to master a skill. However, you need also feedback coming in from other people, or else you're just practicing your same bad habits for 10,000 hours and solidifying those, right? So I love that you were able to find the community and learn from everyone, to get that feedback and incorporate it, because it is so valuable to be like, okay, this is what's working for this person and why, and then I can look at how I can put that into my stories as well. And that's one of the things I love about social media. I know it gets such a bad rap and everyone loves to complain about it, but it's like you get to learn so much for free online. You know what I mean? And that's wonderful. Getting the advice of people talking about, this is what I'm struggling with. What do you guys do? And then you get that conversation going on around you. You get to learn from as well. I love that. Yeah, I love social media for those reasons, right?
I'm very stuck on social media, but you're right. It is such a good resource for meeting new people who love the
Mm.
same things that you do, and for sharing advice and sharing ideas. And I mean, and now we have a YouTube show, which is technically also social media.
Yes, yes,
We
right.
interview authors so that newer authors can learn from them.
Yes. And I'm not going to say there's no evils. Obviously, there's like bad parts of social
Mhm.
media and the seedier elements that can be detrimental in a lot of ways
Yeah.
for people. I just think that like if we are intentional about like what we're watching and why, you can really get a lot of benefit. Like I love therapy
Mhm.
TikTok and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I love jumping on like the learning side of things for social media.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, speaking of learning from others, if you could tell a new author one thing, what would you tell them?
I would say be patient with the process.
Patience. Oh, that's so
That's a
hard.
good message. Hmm.
The reason I say that is because when I started out, I didn't have the same patience. I thought I needed to do everything a certain way. I needed to write a certain way. But what I didn't learn until I started, especially till that first book came out, was that every writer has their own unique style of writing. And just because you don't write the same as your favorite author or somebody in your like the indie community doesn't mean that it's bad. No, it's not. It's just a new unique take on the story you're telling and why you're telling it. Because people will tell you there's a right or wrong. There's not. You don't know how you write until you actually sit down and write it. So being patient with the process is going to teach you in itself as you write how to write the way that you want to write. It's kind of like
Mhm.
your signature. You develop your unique a signature.
Your voice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It
Hmm.
takes you a little while to find your own voice.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes, yes, yes. So valuable, though. So valuable. We were just talking about this a little bit on the last episode, talking to a young writer that I was teaching, um, of being like, how do you find your writing voice and your writing styles? You kind of like great artists steal, right? You pick the things you love about each author that you love and kind of find all of the elements that you want to incorporate into your voice, right? So it becomes this wonderful amalgamation of all of these things you admire in great writers, right? And then,
Mhm.
of course, putting your little spins and twists on things.
Sorry, Lauren. How do you make time for writing? It's I know it's really difficult. Everyone's pretty busy now.
Well, that's another good question. For me, each day is a little different than the day before and then the next day. I don't have a schedule. I don't go by a calendar. I don't have times blocked out. I feel like when the story flows, that's the time to write it. Um, Obviously, if I was working from home or I worked outside the house, yeah, I'd have to, block out some time when I could. But because this is what I do full time, at least for the moment, um, I do take care of a dog. We have a dog now, and I do things around the house, and I make phone calls need be. I have everyday stuff to do, but around that, when the story is flowing, I just sit there and I write. I let the story
Mm-hmm.
take care of itself because here's what I find. however you write, whether if it's block time, a calendar, a day, a couple days a week, maybe you only write on weekends or during the week. That doesn't always work for everybody. And for me, I feel like sticking to what I know and how I do things
Mm-hmm.
allows me to be less stressed about writing the story. It doesn't feel rushed because I'm not on a time. I'm not writing for 30
Right.
minutes here, an hour there, 2 minutes here, 10 minutes there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking the time to let the story just come to me. And when the story is finished, the characters will say, "We're done with this right now. You can quit."
All right.
No, I love that philosophy of like work with yourself, not against yourself. Like that's one of the things, like one of the reasons why my favorite
Mhm.
question to ask at the end is what advice you hate, because it's just like so often writing advice is like this one color, one filter that they try to apply to everyone when everyone's so vastly different. Like, you're talking about with writing, some people have to take 2 minutes here, a half hour there. But like if that's not what's going to work for you, there's like trying to apply the right way of writing or the right way of scheduling your time. You got to work with yourself, and that's not going to be someone
Mhm.
else's concept of how to do it, right? So I love that you know what works for you and you stick with it because that's what works for you.
Hmm.
And you
Absolutely.
embrace it. You're not beating
Yes.
yourself over the head going, "Oh, I really should be better. I should be more consistent. I should do this or that." No, you're like, "You know what? That
Right.
doesn't work for me. I go with the flow. If the flow is going, we're going." Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, that's great because there's so many people that struggle in creative fields, especially with imposter syndrome. So they always beat themselves up. I only wrote 1,500 words today instead of being like, hey, I wrote 1,500 words. Like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of just like everyone just beating themselves up or not feeling good enough or comparing to other people of being like, well, you did more than I did today and I'm just not productive enough. I hate that. The imposter syndrome. Like, we got to get rid of that.
All right. So, Lauren, what is your favorite part of writing?
I think my favorite part of writing is watching the story develop as I go along. And that's because there are some parts of a story that I love more, like pivotal scenes in each of the books, when, and especially the first book where, Mariana is like on a path to find out what happens to her mother and why her mother um, is apparently not living anymore. She's been um, killed. Um, and to her, it's personal journey to find out also who did it, along with the fact that it coincides with her trip to California to see this Mr. Kilpatrick. And so to me, there are different scenes in each of these books that have meant something to me. Now, I will say this about book five. Book five was a heart clencher. It was a tearjerker for me because that was where I had to put everything that was going to go into that book to in the entire series. Everything I had, from the blood, the sweat, even actual tears, to let my female character have the very last say.
Mm-hmm.
In
Uh-huh.
this book, people will find out that Mariana has a learning disability, which spins off the fact that I am a neurodivergent author. I have a learning
Mm-hmm.
disability. I have ADD, and the detective I talked about earlier is the one who sees, while everybody else is in not so much the background, but standing, to the side, thinking that Mariana's, erratic behavior, the way that she processes information, is because she has an attitude problem. And
Mm-hmm.
Detective Tracy says, "Well, no, I don't think that's it. I think you have a learning disability that
Mm-hmm.
is causing some of the problems you're having. And I, as your friend, as somebody who is going to be a trainer to you in your future job, which a lot of people will find out in the series, but he encourages her to find peace and find mental health in her struggles to get to these the final tidbits in the storyline. And for me, I felt seen because she was seen, and that was
Mm-hmm.
what made me I don't know, cry the most because
Mhm.
when you have a learning disability, doesn't matter if it's ADD, ADHD, autism, sometimes you don't feel seen by people in the general public who don't want to recognize the fact that you're just a little bit different than they are as far as your thinking and coping skills. And for
Mhm.
Mariana, that was true for a long time. She didn't know how to handle her emotions because she didn't know they were tied into her learning disability and the fact that
Mhm.
she has these special powers that she learns about that she can do. The detective in the story also learns he has the same powers and he can teach her how to tap into them.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. So your favorite part of writing, it sounds like is kind of a self discovery, a self reflection.
Mhm.
So often it comes up that writing is very much a form of therapy. It is for
Yes.
me, it is for Julia, and probably everyone we've spoken to.
Mhm.
Most of the people have something going on that's not discovered until you get deeper into the story itself. And I feel like because Mariana had so much support as she got as she the story goes along,
Mhm.
she realized how powerful she was in her world. What she could do
Yes. Yeah.
was going to contribute to her future job as a police advocate officer, for which she becomes in the story.
Mhm.
Um, she started out as a licensed sales agent, and she was up for assistant curator. And when that fell through, her story became the emphasis of a future job that the
Mhm.
police chief decided, which you'll meet the police chief. Her name is Janine Green. She is the police chief. Um, she and the captain believed that Mariana could be somebody staple to the police department and help them with some of their um, missing persons and abandonment cases and some of their crime cases
Mhm.
because of her, unique abilities. And so this position was created for her so that she could use talents that were covered underneath the surface. And because of her story, they came to the surface so that she could show people not only what kind of a warrior she was, that she could
Mhm.
fight back, but the
Mhm.
fact that she could help people in everyday life because they were going to feel seen, their voices were going to be heard, and she could speak for people who couldn't speak for themselves.
Mhm.
She
I
becomes a
love that.
pivotal character. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the representation, right? It's so important, like you said, crying because you finally see yourself in a book, in a story that you can
Mhm.
relate to. Like, this is my experience too. And somebody seeing it and honoring it and showing, that. And I love that it's like taking the story and empowering, like, the characters, because they are special, because of what they have going on, because they see things differently.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful. I love that. Yeah.
I love it too because
Yay.
I feel like underneath it, Mariana's me and I'm her.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and that's what I love about her is she started out as somebody with an everyday job and she became
Mm-hmm.
an extraordinary figure.
Mm-hmm.
But she really struggles along the way to obtain that kind of a position because of that roller coaster of having to fight so hard.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
I feel like she bucks against herself too because she's hard
Yes.
headed and stubborn.
Yes, we so
Um,
often sabotage our own selves all the
Mhm.
time because of our stubbornness or our pride or whatever we have, because it's safe. We know it's safe and protected us in the past. We don't want to open up to the new opportunities, the changes and stuff. I also really love that, like, part of the reason why she's able to be successful and step into this new life is because she's learning to be authentically herself, like to trust herself and
Mhm.
get over those obstacles she's putting on herself and just lean into who she really is. Yeah.
and that's what I mean in this book I've been able to lean into myself and being a writer because
Yes.
Mariana is always going to tell people and other people will tell you that you're still going to have those struggles behind you because of how difficult they were. But you're always going to remember that's where they were the reason you got where you were, because you had to not only step into it, but through to the
Yes.
other side. And
Yes.
so,
No. Yes.
yeah. Um, so I always wanted Mariana to find a backbone. And for me, writing this book, that's how I find my backbone, because she was doing it as I was writing the story. We were learning together, and
Yes. It's so
all
wonderful.
these all these characters were like, Mariana, we understand this, but here's something to consider, when you push through life. Like, think about
Mm.
how important you're going to be. It's not just about the job, but think about what you've gotten through to get here, and what
Mm-hmm.
could happen in the future that's going to prepare you, because you already have the tools to get
Mm-hmm.
through those future problems, whatever they're going to be, however difficult they are. That she's being trained, that she can get through whatever
Right.
is standing in her way.
Mm-hmm.
No, 100%. Because it's like we don't learn by everything going well, everything going great in our lives, right? We learn through the struggle, through the difficulties, through the pain that we experience, the hardship. That's how you learn and grow and evolve. And I love that, honoring that. Because, like, I always talk about, like, yeah, I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. That doesn't mean they're missteps, right? They're not in the wrong direction or leading me down the wrong path, right? It's just an opportunity to realign, right? And I love that you're learning that and growing and boundaries and getting a backbone and all of that stuff through your character doing that. Like, that's why we say, like, writing is so therapeutic. It helps us process so much, good and bad, right, that we're struggling with.
Right. And so Mariana was once pointed out, one of the characters says this, that whatever she's going through is, her world is like the dojo. Think of karate and
Mm-hmm.
taekwondo. If you're training in a dojo with, a teacher like a sensei or some sort of master, your problems are the lessons. The dojo is your world.
Mm.
And, the master or your sensei, well, it's constructed by, those around you who are teaching you to take those problems and push them out in the world. Like, don't, like, isolate yourself to that one spot. You need to maneuver with
Mm-hmm.
the techniques and things that you learn to push through all of that. Even though that's where you start in your world, is that one place, it's still a dojo. It just moves with
Mm-hmm.
you, and you keep training and you
Yes.
keep fighting and you keep mastering. So that's what something a character pointed out, that this is how she's learning to fight in her world. The world is her dojo.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a wonderful, wonderful way of looking at it. Yes. Yeah, you don't have to go to a building to learn, right? The whole world is your learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, we love that.
All right. Do you have any major influences on your writing?
Um, well, yeah. Besides writing, I do have hobbies. I'm really into films. I am I've been training for a number of years to be, a film historian. And learned under somebody who is a film historian that I admire very much. But the fact is that, like I said, I do read too, and I think that's where some of that comes into play. Um, I take elements from my real life, and that's how, um, my books are influenced, because I feel like you could take things out of your real life. You could take just one thing and turn it into a story, and people would fall in love with it because it's as authentic as you are. And I think people are drawn to authenticity because of how raw and real those emotions come out when they sit there and read the book. So I do some studying on my own, especially with my hobbies. Like I said, I like, films, and I watch quite a few, and I take little tiny itty bits, and, there's people in the film world I admire, and based on all that and everything else that happens in my entire life, take tiny bits of everything, and those are things that are sprinkled into the story, to, not what you say, bulk it up, but give it those tiny touches and details that people will look at and be like, oh, that was so cute. I'm glad I could, read that, because, that makes me feel good that this was put in here. I'm not alone in the way I think and the things that I like to do. So yeah.
Okay. Inspiration is everywhere, it sounds like, for you.
Yes.
There's nowhere that you're not being inspired or driven. That's wonderful. All right. What would you say has been your most significant writing victory so far?
The fact that I could write 5 books.
Yeah.
This series actually was only supposed to be about 2 books. And then when we got to book 3, I realized, well, now we got a problem. There's a lot more questions than I have answers. And I realized, how am I going to accomplish, after every book to book 5 is left on a cliffhanger, right?
Uh-huh.
I figured out what questions were going to need to be answered. Now, granted, people will still have questions even after this book. That's normal. If you're not still asking questions, there might be a problem, because that means it didn't do anything for you. But what I mean is that it really was just supposed to be 2 to 3 books, and I wound up with a 5-book series. And the fact that, I mean, these books are out, it's just, I'm floored every day, because this is not what I expected. I mean, I just wanted to write a story and see what would happen. And now that I'm doing this for a living, I'm amazed. I'm amazed about what I can do. And I'm reminded, your work is not junk. It's just diamond in the rough. And when it's done, it'll be a very pretty gem that people will want to look at.
Yes, no, kudos, right? Anyone who's written a book to completion, like, kudos, right? Huge accomplishment, let alone then publishing it. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many steps involved. There's so much difficult processes to go through to get a story to completion and then publish it. Anytime you do that, huge congratulations. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Have you ever been given writing advice that you hate? Like, you're like, no, that doesn't work for me?
Oh, yeah. I've seen a lot of bad writing advice, especially on TikTok. I've seen a lot of people who've been writing for 10 plus years, even when I was trying to put my first book out, that said, you had to have structure. You had to know where you were going. It all had to be written down in a book. You had to do this. You had to do that. That might have worked 10 years before you. That might have worked before indie authors became a thing, and it was mostly trad or whatever. But I think a lot of that advice doesn't work for people, especially who write in a lot of different genres and subgenres. And because the stories don't reflect that advice. It's supposed to reflect the author's vision for where they saw the book. And for me, people giving you big rules to follow every single time you write, it doesn't work for everybody, because not everybody processes how they write with those in mind. You have to tailor the rules so that it fits how you want to write. It's writing, as we all know, is subjective, because the readers will look at it and have different points of view about it. So us writing and showing our work to other people to help us improve it is subjective on another end, because their advice will be different than what somebody else gives. So I feel like if you're going to give writing advice, make sure that no matter what time, we reside in, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the future, we can still use it again, and it's still beneficial and not just profitable.
Yes. And the funny thing is like if that's the only way to write is plotting, like how do you explain Stephen King? Because he's very staunchly a pantser. Like his whole book on writing is like a memoir of his early writing experiences, but then talking about how you just pants the whole thing. You know what I mean? So he's one of the most prolific, successful writers of our age, right? So if you have to plot, like I'd like the explanation for how he works so well. Then yeah.
All right. Do you have any of your books handy to show off your covers?
Absolutely. This is the first one. When
Yes.
people look this up, they will see this guy on the cover, and I can guarantee you that's Dean Newberry. He's just in disguise right now. That house below him, I couldn't tell you whose house that is. I guess it'll be up here somewhere in the story. But anyway, you will this is the first book, and it's Hello My Beautiful. This is where you'll start. This is book 2. This is Hello My Love. And this is the chunker of all 5 of them. So you'll probably spend a little more time reading on it, depending on your reading level. And there's a guy with a camera spying through some blinds. That's an actual clue inside this book that there's a man doing some spying through some blinds. You'll find out who that guy is. And then this is book 3. This is Goodbye, Mariana. And this is just a continuation of the first 2. And then there's We Meet Again. This is book 4. This is the first colored cover of the series. And I'll explain that transition here in just a minute. And then this was just published. This is the final book. This is Truth Be Told, Mariana. And so the reason for these transitions from dark to light shows the progression of Mariana's story and the fact that she became so strong fighting the good fight and learning from her experience and her growth, and how she learned to come out of the darkness, that she got that backbone.
I love that transition into the color covers, and that's beautiful.
So that's what that represents, but there is 5, and this is what they look like, spine to spine.
Yes. I love that. I didn't realize you'd written 5 books. Congratulations. That's so many. Great job, right? Yes.
Yes,
it's hard
thank you.
to get that through each stage of the process, and you did 5. That's amazing.
And that one actually just came out a few months ago, and I'm already working on a project of 2 books that center around this world. That's a project in the future I'm working on, and I really enjoy what I do, and I hope if anybody gets anything out of the series right now, I hope you realize that there's a warrior inside of you, and that whatever you're going through, you push through and you fight as hard as you can, but realize it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to ask for people to step in and help you, because in the end, you're better for it. Not only will you learn to ask for help, but those who are helping you will actually learn from you about the things that they kind of put aside in their own lives.
Do you want to share your socials with us real quick, or any website?
Yes, I'm on TikTok. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I'm trying to get into Substack and some other platforms, but I have a link tree that people can go to, and I also have a website that has some information on there about me, books and things that I offer currently. They can go there. They can also reach out to me for questions by email, even through the social media apps. I'm more than happy to answer questions or hear people complain to me about what's happening in the books, because that keeps me going. Days when I'm down and going, what in the heck was I thinking? And then they'll remind me, well, that's what the heck I was thinking. Because let's just face it, even I have imposter syndrome, and sometimes things that because somebody's having a little better success than me right now, it just means that it's not my time. It's not my time to shine. And when it is, people will be happy for me. So I take that opportunity to remind myself, your turn. It's not your turn yet. Just be happy for other people. And when it's your turn, they'll give you the same consideration. So just keep writing and just keep
Yes.
hanging in there.
Yes, yes. Because oftentimes overnight successes, anyways, are 10 years in the making. You don't see all the hard
Mm-hmm.
work that's been going on. They just seem to explode, but they're putting in the hard work you're putting in now, just in the past, right? So you'll have your time to shine too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us for a wonderful conversation tonight.
Absolutely. I would like to thank you for having me on and allowing me to tell my stories and why I love to write and about the series. Because as I continue to fall in love with what I do, I hope my readers will
Hmm.
do the same.
Yes,
Love
and
it.
we loved hearing all about it. Yeah. All right, and thank you to everyone listening along at home. Remember, our next episode airs Friday as usual, and there's more than one way of a button. If you're interested in being a guest on the Tell Not Show, you can find us on social media at the Tell Not Show or emails at thetellnotshow@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing and liking. We appreciate all the support. Julia J.K. Allen is an author, editor, and coach, and can be found at hijingsrudder.com.
Kirsha Fox is an author, avid reader, gamer, and mother to four, and you can find her at kirshafox.com. Thanks and see you next time.